All right, all right, all right. You guys hear me out there all right? You see me okay? We are starting this one off just a hair late today because, as always, yours truly completely forgot what day of the week it is. I didn't realize yesterday was Thursday, going in today, Friday, all of that fun stuff. So I didn't get a chance. Well, okay, let's rephrase this real quick. Guys, welcome to another Free Support Friday with your host, if you guys don't know, Fusion Phil over here at JitCAD Cam. We're here to provide you guys with services, whether they be free sessions like this over the week or turning those into things like paid support memberships that we have that come with custom one-on-one training. And we can also transact your Autodesk software if you're in North America. Now, as per the tradition, we always ceremonially crack this off with an energy drink because we do have a Buy Me a Beer program. But this week, we're summing her up with just good old-fashioned coffee, which you guys can't really see because, one, my shirt is so black and the background's probably not helping. But now that we got some caffeine in us, I see the chat going wild. I wanted to check on a few other things. Big shout out to Vincent Pace out there. If you guys didn't see, he's now a top tier subscriber. So if you guys didn't know, you can sign up if you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're not pushing you guys. The likes and subscriptions, sharing our content is plenty. However, if you feel the need for a whopping $5 a month, you can sign up for a subscription. So I'm going to go ahead. Give me a second here real quick, guys. I just want to make sure that I'm not missing anybody else that has signed up in the meantime. Nope. We're up to a whopping 2 top tier subscribers. I'm also going to get my support pulled up here. Give me a few more minutes. All right, let's make sure we don't have any support tickets in right now for Free Support Friday, and I'm not seeing any. Now let's get to the guys in chat. First and foremost, M-Fish, thank you. Welcome yourself. Elijah, always great to have you. Now, I do see M-Fish already jumping in with the questions. Generate a body from the Setup tab. You know how to create the stock in the Setup tab, but I want to make an actual body with that information. So, M-Fish, are you referring to the stock after you've machined it? Or what are you looking for? Elijah, of course you just emailed me. Give me a sec here real quick, guys. Let me go ahead and get that pulled up while we wait on M-Fish as well. Long tube part. Get this downloaded. All right. Subtraction toolpath first op. I am all over the place, guys. I'm going to start sharing my screen here for you here. Give me a second. Let me get back over to everything. There we go. Lovely Fusion pulled up. And let's get into the world of our good old-fashioned Free Support Friday folder. How's everybody's week been? You guys getting in good for Christmas? You guys get machining stuff for Christmas? Just curious. Get your first set of calipers out for your kid? Let's go ahead and go 50, the big 50. 50 episodes of Free Friday fun. So let's go ahead and now upload our part. And been going like crazy. Have you seen something wrong with a Fusion post that shifts your offsets? I have not. I would need to see exactly what's going on. All right. Elijah, we got your part cracked open here. I'm going to get back to what you stated. Click through and see if everything is center. Okay, this is going to be a good one. I've been scrapping because the op2 doesn't seem to line up with op1. I've done so many offsets and it still doesn't work. Is this what you're referring to when you just asked that a question, Elijah? All right. So first and foremost, let's take a look here. Setup 1. Let's get this in place. We are utilizing a stock box point. Now, given that it is a stock box point, our stock is fixed size. We're on center, on center, on center. Everything's checking out here pretty good. Now, when we go into setup 2, let's go ahead and take a look here. Model box point. Now, this shouldn't affect anything, but we're going to pull a couple of dimensions here. This is my opinion at the end of the day, right off the start, Elijah, is I would tell you instead of using model box point, you might actually do something like selected point and then grab this ring at the top, because I assume you either don't have the bore here. Actually, you're upside down, right? So as you can see, is I can get on center of the bore at the end of the day. Now that might be much better at the end of the day for what you have. So as you're going to see, we now are going off of that exact edge. Now, let me read through. You're putting a lot in chat, so I'm going to get everybody caught up here. The last time you tried to run the end mill, it didn't even touch the face of the part. The end mill was way too high. Okay, let's take a look a little bit further now. So first and foremost, it looks to me like you are touching the top of the part. Your G code here is going to come from the actual WCS system. Now, a few things I would look at, like I said, is let's just make sure this is on center. So we're 118 there. For those of you out there, we'll go out to 4 decimals. Not that we're going to see a difference. Again, we're going to go bore back the other way. We're 118. So we look to be on center in X and Y. Now, from that, I would say is everything kind of checks out from a G code standpoint. So what I would tell you now is if we posted this exact code, we're going to go ahead and put this through. Actually, we could use the dumper. So actually, we can't use the dumper because I don't want to waste time trying to pull it through another post. If I remember correctly, don't you have, what kind of machine do you have there? Jeff, another top tier subscriber. Merry Christmas to you, buddy. Let's just go ahead and put it on a Fanic. It'll be all right. What we're looking for is XYZ. So right off the start, we are Z call out 4 for G01, 4.08. We're doing a G18 to 4.03. And you have I, J, and K motions. Again, we have a vertical lead arc. So let's take a look here real quick. So we're at 403. Measuring this guy out, we're 4 even. And with that, I would assume you are making multiple passes. So this is some tricks you guys could do when you're trying to troubleshoot something. I'm just looking for the math, which means I am zeroing out vertical and making a single pass. Because the G code, if it's not touching in Z at all, is the G code wrong or is the machine setup wrong, right? So as you're seeing now, we're going to Z 4 inches exactly. Deep thinker out there with another top tier subscriber. I appreciate it, guys. Hey, just so you know, I'm not forcing this on you. Somebody brought it to my attention. They're like, man, I'd rather give you $60 a year, $5 a month. If you had the option, put it out there. As you guys are seeing, you guys are loving it. And for the record, that $5 every month buys me 2 beers. So works pretty good for me. So as you guys are seeing from an overall look, Elijah, what I'm seeing is the math is checking out. Now I could play the game. Let's go back and let's just make sure everything works out. Post-process this. Let's get the Haas pre-NGC post. I am going to pull the latest and greatest post. Again, there's our pre-NGC milling post. We're going to go ahead and copy that over to our cloud. And just like that, I'm going to post this one more time. Now, what I'm seeing is, again, the Z 4.0 still checks out. So the face is 4.0625 high, and the actual part is 409. I'm touching off the jaws itself. Okay, we're getting a little tricky here because your math that you're telling me in chat does not line up to your physical part. So again, as if I measure the length of your part, the length of your part is exactly 4 inches. But you're saying 40625. Let's go ahead. Let me do this. Give me 1 sec here, guys. We're going to run through this. You're already facing off the back side of the part, which means you should be at 0. I think I kind of understand where your dilemma is coming from because up here, you're touching the stock, right? And then your stock is 4125, but because you're on center would give me 0625 per side, right? So when I flip my part over, I've already accounted for, get this closed up so you guys can see this a little bit better, 0625 here. So you're saying from my WCS to the top of my stock should be 4.0625. Yeah, so that checks out at the end of the day. As you're seeing right now is I am, based on the math that I'm seeing here, 40625 is the top of your stock. That's correct. So I guess my question, and we could demonstrate that here. Let's do this. So I'm going to run a facing program, and we're actually going to machine to stock top, not model top. And then we will put our top height up just a hair just so we don't get any errors. But if I post out this one now, this would be in a perfect world for you guys wondering. As you guys can see, I'm now at Z40625 would be where my Z height is for facing off. So there is facing across the top of this part. And because my stock, if I do my fancy dancy F8 here, and of course we need some transparent stock. Looks like we're not going to get it the best here. But as you guys can see is I am facing off at exactly stock 0, which is 4.0625. And then I have a secondary facing on model height, which is now touching the part. Right now, the part is 409 and the end mill is still not touching. So a couple of things I would suggest is seeing how you're holding this in a jig and fixture. Is your Z height in the proper location? That's always rule number 1. I am going to scroll up here real quick. Fish out there, sometimes generating a body for a new job to see where and how I will run the part. The setup tab does a good job generating stock. I want an actual body to use for fixturing. Okay, M-Fish, I will visit that here in a second. Using a Heimer. Well, are you lowering Z height on the Heimer? I'm not trying to call you out. So presumably what I would, Elijah, what you need to do is I would tell you need to check the math on everything. So if you're using a Heimer, you don't have a presetter, which means you're setting tool lengths manually. Where are you setting tool lengths off of? That would be my next question. Getting back to the question from M-Fish. M-Fish, we did several videos on this, but what I would recommend when you're talking about your stock being a solid, this is where we have done videos on vices and using parameters. Now, full disclosure, guys, I think some of these guys are going to be a little beat up here, but the idea is still the same at the end of the day, is when you have your vice and when you have your stock and everything in place, that's a solid body. Now, if you're wanting, Fish, for me to go through and set everything up from there, let me know. Okay. The table with a Haas digital tool setter. So you have a presetter, but you don't have a spindle probe, right? And I assume when you touched off your presetter or your Heimer, you allowed for the distance to get to the center of the ball. Give you a minute to answer. So if I was looking at wanting to do something with stock, real quick here, Fish, this is how I personally would do it, is you would start with a new file. Let me get back to my Free Support Friday folder. And in that actual model, so what I do, and this is a little bit of organization that I use, guys. So what I do is I start a new folder, and then this might be my part number, right? Let's say it's TAC 1001. Inside that folder, I would need the part. Now I'm going to generically create a part real quick just to demonstrate this out. Let's say we're working with like an L bracket, 0.5, 2, 1, and let's say this guy's going to be 0.250, right? So let's say I need to make this part. So as you're going to see, this is going to be physically the part. And you would have already uploaded that. So just be aware. So from that, though, this is where I would start a blank file. And this file in itself would actually be like my TAC 1001. And then I like to call it my manufacturing, right? Because this is where I'm going to apply my toolpath. That allows me to, 1, insert my part into this file by dragging and dropping and link it back to the original. From there, I have full freedom to go in and make a new component that is going to be for the stock itself. And with that active, I can generate my stock. So if I wanted to simply create a box, I'm going to go ahead and create a box here. And now this is going to be my stock size. Let's say we're going to go 3, 4, by 5. I know this is obnoxiously big, but I think you guys are going to get the point after the fact. Is because these are components now, this is where I could do something like a joint to place my part inside of my stock and lower it whatever that distance is for manufacturing, right? So as you guys are seeing me do this, it's a little messy because one, my stock is in the way, but now I have a physical solid for stock, and then I have a physical component that is my part. So in the manufacturing side, when I do my setup, as you can see, we need to define what our part is. I go to my tree. There's my part. My stock is now from solid. So again, we're going to go from solid, pick that stock. And just like that, I now have a solid versus my part, right? So Ass has a little disc that you push down and tells you, okay. All right, jumping back a little bit. Elijah, the main problem is the tube is offset from the square. In my last attempt, I drilled a hole all the way through the part, and I'm going to indicate it and run it. So a couple of things, Elijah. One, you should send me my favorite price tag of 2 blank checks and have me fly out there and help you. But what I would go back to and talk to you about on this part is if you're having alignment issues from setup 1 to setup 2, I don't think it's in Fusion, because I did make the change of going off of stock box point or selected point from model box point like you had. But hypothetically, everything here looks fine because we measured to see if your bore was on center of the flange. I guess I never checked the design side. I don't see a design. Oh, there is a design history here. Not to judge you on how you made everything. Let's just jump through this here real quick. Well, now that we're investigating your file, there might be some other questions I have. Because we have toolpath geometry don't use, optimize stock, toolpath geometry. Let's go back to our manufacturer. All right. So in our first setup, we are utilizing a body. So again, not going to tell you anything wrong here, but one, when using bodies in setups, you can have a lot of problems. I don't think this is your problem, if I'm being honest with you. The only reason I say that is because when I now looked at your design tree, there's quite a lot going on in here. Now, if I needed a specific component, I always go off that physical component, right? Again, I see you got stock as a fixed size. That's fine. But now my continuous rest machining is going to require me to also select the same model down here. I don't think this is your problem from what I'm seeing as a whole. I just know that that could be the problem at the end of the day. Again, let's just go ahead and get everything regenerated here. But yeah, from what I'm seeing, I don't think it's a Fusion issue at the end of the day. I think it comes back to more of something is happening when you go to set up this part. Maybe there's something wrong with your Heimer, because again, this hole 118 this way, 118 that way. This all looks good. This hole is on center of this hole. There's no error on distance. Again, all of this stuff is checking out pretty good at the end of the day. So it's hard to say exactly what's going on. Use the setup tab to determine the stock size you need. Can you make it a solid and locate it based on the setup information? So Fish, maybe I'm just not getting exactly what you're looking for, because at the end of the day, like I kind of showed you guys, you need to basically make your stock either a solid to control it, or if I was running a setup, I'm going to make a new setup here for you guys. Again, part, stock, solid. If you're trying to align this a certain way, as you can see, I guess I could offset left side 0.1 and so forth and so on, right? So again, offset from top, 0.05 for facing, and let's just say offset from backside 0.1 as well. As you can see, I've shifted my part to a certain corner of the stock. I need to see exactly what it is you're trying to do outside of that fish. As you're seeing in this setup, I'm using fixed size box. However, on the setup side of things, that first time round, I have a solid that I modeled. So if I went back to design and changed that stock size that I generated, again, let's just say we go 3, 2, 2. As you're seeing, I've now made that stock smaller. Again, pro tip for you guys out there, depending on what you're doing, is you can change the opacity of your stock, make it easier to see it with your part inside of it. You had a machinist buddy set up with you and it still came out wrong. So let's do a little bit more diving into this then. And I do want to let you guys know, I see a lot of people coming and going here. If you guys have questions at any time, anything in particular you want to see, feel free to ask them in chat. There's also a support link down below for you guys to submit a ticket with your problems. Got to get me another chug of some coffee here. So, diving back into this a little bit more. Well, let's go evaluate a couple of things real fast. Is when we are posting out right now, we are using the latest Haas pre-NGC post. Now, something that you guys can do out there is I'm going to pull this up on my other page and bring it over. So, although the post may have gotten an update as of 10 days ago, we can see what has all happened inside of those updates, right? So as you're seeing, based on a lot of the information here, fixed under warning messages, fixed a potential issue when outputting multi-line comments, all of this stuff seems to be all right on my side, right? So I don't see anything different. Now we could compare and edit these. And if you guys didn't know, here's a cool trick. We're going to go ahead and download the older version and the latest version. And then since EJ is trying to claim that it's the post, all machinist. It's never the machinist. It's always the post. So something wrong with the post. All right. Well, I'm going to show you guys how to troubleshoot it. So as you're going to see, I'm going to go back to that original toolpath. Again, I took some stuff off of your toolpath as of right now. But if I post process and I use the dumper, I love the dumper post. Again, that's in your default post library, guys. What this allows me to do is to, one, get some mumbo jumbo worth of information. But if you have the Autodesk post utility installed, you now have the ability to do a custom. You guys see this? I assume this is behind the chat window. Let me scoot it over here. Let's half screen it, right? Okay. So as you guys can see, what I'm doing now my big head's in the way, I can't win, is under CNC selector, this is a debugger. Now you're going to get what's called the custom. And what that's going to allow you to do is to generate the exact program off a post. So let's get our posts now opened up. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my downloads folder, which for some reason I'm not seeing the post processor in here. Oh, because we're selecting the folder. What a goofball, right? And then we're going to go ahead and close this all out. And now you can see I have a lot of things in my downloads folder. But as you're seeing, I can go ahead and open up both these posts. I'm going to go back to full screen now, guys. You're going to have to bear with me. And then we go to custom. And as you're going to see, depending on what post I click on, if I click 1001, there's the code generated. As you're seeing, based on this rev, right now, my Z is doing a lot of funkiness. So I think my 1001 went to the wrong area. I'm going to go back and fix that. Should actually be setup 1 NC. But what I'm going to do is, again, 1001 here, 1001 there. We could generate code off those posts in real time. So give me 1 sec here because I'm going to go back and repost that code. We're going to give it a number. So it should be set up to, but let's go 2001. And let's just say it's also 2001 here. And this is the problem. It's putting it in a specific place. That's fine. And let's see if we can't refresh this list. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe it's putting it in the wrong place for some reason and I'm just not seeing it. I might have to do some debugging on my side, guys. See if it's in here. It is not in here. So let's go ahead and copy this address. Go back to Fusion for the last time, hopefully. There we go. And let's get this closed out. And we should see 1001. Maybe. Can't win today. We're gonna do my favorite thing. We're just gonna go ahead, open this folder, delete everything in here, start fresh. There we go. Nothing in the custom folder. Post process. The dumper. This could also be me because I know I have changed stuff in the past, but let's do it the right way. We got the latest version of the Autodesk post. That is good. Awesome. We are going to post this out. 1001. Hopefully I'm not a liar here at the end of this. It's not posting to my folder. So maybe there is something weird going on. We might have to do this a couple of other ways outside of that. Y and X were wrong also. So, I mean, the only thing I could tell you is, one, Y and X is off, Elijah. So you got X, Y, and Z all off in some way, shape, or form, right? That's what I'm hearing. So if somebody came to me and said my X, Y, and Z is all off, I think there's a problem with your Heimer. That's what I'm going to tell you. It's honestly what I'm going to tell you. And that's without physically being able to put my hands on it and see what's going on. There's a lot of questions. I mean, M-Fish is right. The Haas does have the ability to put other offsets in. You've also used a edge finder. Still wrong. I don't know, man. I really don't know, because at the end of the day is if I was to also do, and this would just be my sense on this, I'm going to do a 2D contour around this part, right? And if I post out this 2D contour, again, let's go ahead and get back to that Haas pre-NGC post. Does my J's all seem to line up? And then is my XY also working? One thing you guys can do, again, this is just something if you guys didn't know, go ahead, file, save as this. Looks like it's saving to where it needs to go, but we're going to go ahead and throw this on my desktop because, again, we could take our NC code and run it through like NC Viewer. So give me a quick second here, guys. I'm going to bring this over. So again, we got NC Viewer. We're going to go ahead and pull in that setup to file. And what we need to do is Z up. Yes. And then here's our digital readout. So again, to me, as you're seeing, this is my origin and this is my plotted line. So it looks like everything is plotting even correct with the latest post in XY. Give me a sec, guys, here. I'm going to jump back so I can see you guys' chats. There we go. I ran another part and it checked out okay. G52 is off. So the adaptive. Because the square is off of the pipe. Do the adaptive. Elijah, this is something I'm gonna have to tell you to pump the brakes on. Let's jump on the phones after this and kind of walk through and talk it out. Because again, it's very hard sometimes to troubleshoot certain things. There could be a million reasons. I don't know why. Something sounds off that all of a sudden your machine works fine and now it doesn't work, right? No worries, man. We got CAD user 99 out there. 5-axis machine that doesn't use DWO. This question comes up so much. We have video content on it. Give me 1 second, though, because I am going to troubleshoot something real quick. Now, if you guys didn't know, I changed the expression for my file name, and I think this is causing my problem with my other stuff. So we're going to reset to user default. Then I'm going to save as user default. This is a good way to pull the setup name into your file name and post out with that. But let's see if I can't get my dumper file to work now. Give me 1 sec here, guys. Unless something else is going on here that we all don't know. So it looks like it dumped the way it should. Let's go to our CNC selector, custom. I am not getting it in the custom folder. So I wonder if there is something strange going on. Maybe they took away the old dumper post or something else is screwy at the end of the day. There used to be a, maybe I'm missing a button. Let's go back here real quick, guys. OpenNC, document units, cool. You guys tell me. That's my local version of that post. Let's go back to the Autodesk version. Did they update this too? There we go. There's something I'm probably doing on my side, or my Autodesk debugger needs a update. Yeah, it's not posting to the custom folder. That's strange. Let's see here. Very, very strange. Is there an update? I don't see any updates. 4 months ago was the last update. So it looks like we are all up to date. I'm going to have to troubleshoot this later. I'm going to jump back over. I guess, CAD user, what is your question about 5-axis? So I know you don't have DWO. What I'm going to tell you at the end of the day is you're going to have to program from center point of rotation. Now, I'm going to steal Elijah's part here because it will work very nicely for this. Now, when you don't have dynamic work offset for you guys out there, normally on your part, this is a hard normal, you're going to probe top center of your stock. And then if I was to put this on a 5-axis machine, lucky for you guys, I only have 1 million of them. Give me a sec here. This would sit on top of some vices. It would be up in space somewhere, right? And those vices may or may not be perfectly on center. It's not a big deal, but what we're doing is the controller would then handle the math from center of rotation, which I believe is about 2 inches above the platter on the UMCs, from there to the top center of your part, right? So let me get this back into place. And again, you have your facing procedure and things like that. So, yep. So I'm going to get to that real quick here. So with that, you run a part over and over in a 5-axis that doesn't always go back into the machine at the same exact location. So there's a couple of things I would point out there, CAD user, is I would need to know, one, what is the machine itself? Most machines have the ability to turn on dynamic work offset if they were made within the last 10 or 15 so years. Now, with that, what I would tell you, this is my trick that I use for you guys, is in the design workspace, this is where I would actually use what's called a joint origin to control whatever it is that you're trying to position, right? So if I go joint origin and I go off the top center of my part, as you notice, what I'm really looking to do is place that point based on whatever the compensation is when I probe my part in space. So it does get messy, and we do have a video on this. This is where our custom training comes in to be very, very handy. But the idea is now in the design space, I control my part shift with the joint origin. And then when I go back to the manufacturer side of things, or when you're physically on the machine, that is where we're going to place that point. So again, I could go selected point. This point here, and this is a terrible model, guys. Don't use these models. Feel free to reach out to me at any time. We'll get you guys set up. So we're going to put the joint origin on the platter, or we would put a joint origin on that platter to make life easy. And then you would have 0 compensation here. So as you guys can see, if I can get back to it, With that setup, I still need to control my WCS. So again, this is where, kind of like EJ's part earlier, we use a selected point. I pick that point down there in space, and then all of my G code comes from that point. And that point is basically the center of rotation. So, all right. So CAD user, awesome information, Deuce on DVF, and then you got, okay. So you do have DWO, but the issue isn't Z0 at table. You are, I assume, utilizing like a tombstone, or are you utilizing something more like a pyramid fixture? So again, guys, we're going to go ahead and take a brief pause while he gets that information out there. If you guys like this content, feel free to subscribe. Feel free to hit that like button. Feel free to share our content. We also offer up a buy me a beer, buy me a steak, buy me a lobster program. We have membership subscriptions now. Again, big shout out to good old Vincent Pace. He signed up today. He also bought my family several lobsters and beers for this lovely holiday. So getting back over there. Again, Fish, I didn't forget about you. Okay, we'll get to you there, Fish. Don't worry. Do you have other people that help you with your services? We do have other people that do help, as well as contractors, Elijah. In the file you are working on, if you want to make a body that machines, okay. It's the fixture that okay, so CAD user, are you using more of like a 0-point fixture? Or a 0-point system, I should say. All right, M Fish, getting back to your question real quick here. So one thing is as you saw me do in this file here, we went ahead and created our stock from a solid. Now you're saying is if you were doing something and you were using a relative size box and trying to round up by a specific amount. Now you don't need to do that right here inside of the CAD or the CAM side of Fusion. What you're going to see, I'm going to jump back over to design, is I have the ability to go in and utilize a simplify and replace with primitive, right? So this is something you could again do based on your part file, but what you're going to notice is I can't select this part on my screen, and that's because it's still linked, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy this part. And then I'm going to go up to the top and I'm going to paste. Now you're going to notice I don't get paste new right now, because what's going to happen is that is still going to be a linked component. I would then break the link, and then that would allow me to now activate said component. If I can get the dot to show up, and then do my simplify move, right? So again, simplify, replace with primitive. And then from there, you're going to see that I have the ability to round that up based on whatever it is that you want to do for your stock size. So again, this is a little bit different way to go about it. Again, we could go box, cylinder, sphere. This is a really good one if you guys are dealing with like round stock to make square parts. Again, this is where you can adjust this any way you want to get that part in that position. So again, this is just a different way to do it. This would then become my stock, and away we can go. So this is just something that you have that ability to change up and shift around and play around with. Oh, you're looking for how fast my ability is to address customer issues. Guys, our support ticket response time is sub 7 minutes for most things. So, yeah, no worries, man. So right now, if one of my customers, so you guys know, a lot of people ask us about our services, who's all over here. I am the only full-time employee here, for the record. But that being said, that if you guys reached out to us and you have our service plan, this is a big if you have a paid support plan through us, we prioritize you faster than anybody. Now, in most cases, if I'm live on YouTube and one of my customers was like, there is an emergency right now, I need your help, I would either have to put you guys on pause, or I would reach out to one of my contractors to get you guys set up and going ASAP. So as most people are always worried, how fast do we get responses out? With the exception of post work, a lot of times within the first 10 minutes of your ticket coming in, if you got up and went to get coffee, you come back to sit down, you usually get a response. So again, I just want to get back real quick. Fish, if you're seeing what I'm doing, this is kind of a way that you could go about it. Now, I would need to know a little bit more information why it is that you are using something like relative size box versus our fixed size boxes. Again, this is my opinion at the end of the day. For a lot of you, I never use relative size because I can't order material in relative size unless you were getting like flame cut parts. That would be the one way to look at it, right? There is the option to do the whole bounding solid thing. Again, we played with this in the past. I really need to just sit down and learn it and figure it all out. So jumping back down, I see Kramer Machine Tool. Awesome. Great to have you out there. Found our channel yesterday. Finding a good content on mill turn programming. Your content is great. I appreciate it, man. Do I know of any other good resources? That is a wee bit of a trick question, man, because at the end of the day, dual spindle cam template. Yeah, so we actually build our own in-house container methods as well there. Kramer, it's up to you who you use. I get the idea of the container method. It works pretty good. If you're a job shop, it might not work the best, and there's a lot of ins and outs to something like that. Now, from a resources standpoint, I don't really know who else out there is doing cam content like we are that is more on the upper end of learning. It's hard to say. Cannot generate I mean, it does generate a stock body. Again, Fish, I need more information from you, man. I don't know what it is that you're trying to achieve. Like, you're asking me to take you on a path through the woods, but we don't know where the exit of the woods is. I could see that you're rounding it up for that. It's faster, but I guess, again, I don't know your end application, right? Because to me, if I was using fixed size box and we were center offset from Z-top, and then you were using the ability to round up to nearest, I don't know why you need, at the end of the day, the ability to adjust more than that. That would be my 2 cents on it for you guys. Is what is your end goal, right? That's all. Kramer out there's not a lot of resources. That's my problem. Yep. No, so everything we do, we don't want to paywall you guys with any of our content. That's why we put it all on YouTube for free for you guys to consume. Kramer, I would highly recommend, though, at the end of the day, that you go out and pick up our top tier support package. Comes with a couple of hours of free training in there, and then we could do additional hourly training. We could even come out on site and train you guys in person. Again, there is a lot of value there. I don't want you guys to be shell-shocked by our prices. What you pay for with our experience on site is an accelerated training, right? Your parts, real workflows for you guys. And also, I would like to also put out there, everybody asked me this question. Our goal when we train you is to not have you ask us questions. It's a great business plan, right? We want to train you to be self-sufficient and not have to ask us questions. For that, year 2 support packages, we don't do a ton of them unless people want that insurance, right? So again, Fish, I get it, man. If that's your workflow, I'd want to dive into it a little bit more and see what you have going on. Kramer, if you do want some more information, feel free to send us a email. Again, there's an info email address down below that you can utilize, and that email will reach out to us and we can get you set up with something. All right. Other questions outside of that, guys? I'm leaving this open to you. I have nothing coming in here today. Just for the record. I'm gonna give you guys some time to think about it. I think going back to the DWO question, I think somebody was right. They did say we did do a workflow Wednesday. Where was it here? I gotta remember what it was called. It might have even been a free support Friday, but it was a center of rotation question. Hey, you know what? It might have been a, where would it be? In our older Fusion Friday content. Multiple setups. Side mounted vise. Remember that one? It was a good one. You guys would have to tell me what the file was. I can't remember. So again, Fish, I don't want to tell you that it seems like you're doing a lot of extra work. You just seem to be going back to the fact that if you're designing a fixture, I would have just generated my stock in my fixture, because then my stock controls my fixture, right? That would be my take on it. Yeah, I think you're making me do too much work, because again, as if we went back to, and this is just a good example of this. Give me a sec here to see if I can find one. Only built these things 3,000 times a year, it seems like. So this would be my recommendation for you, Fish, is you're going to see this is lineage not found. Let's go. 404 error, baby. All right. Show in location. Oh. For some reason, we have lost our part file. Let's go ahead and look at a different one. Where is it here? Workholding. We'll get one of these to open up. But again, here is, I don't think, did I make this one parameter or not? I did. Okay, cool. So as you guys can see, as you're seeing, we have the ability to control this in a lot of different ways. Now, I did this vice based on a configuration table. I want you guys to know that right off the start is we have a soft jaw configuration. We have a hard jaw configuration. I believe I also have stock in here, as you guys are seeing. You go ahead and get to my stock. This might be tricky for you guys to see. To try to get it a little bit better, change some opacity here, because I think I have this turned down. So as you can see, I now have stock between my jaws and everything, Fish. And this is how I recommend doing this, because now that the template is built out, it goes back to that same calibration as Kramer was asking about a ability to do a container method. I put the part in the stock, I load it because it's a component, and then I adjust my stock, right? So again, this is where you have a lot of different settings that you can control at the end of the day to move your part around, set your spacing, things of that nature, right? So again, you have your stock height. Maybe it's 5 inches tall. You have your stock width. Again, I can't remember the full extent of how much this one was controllable. This was built for another project, but this is what I want you guys to see at the end of the day. So any questions outside of that? So again, this is the way I would do it. Then you place your part in the stock and away you go. And we have videos on dovetail vices. We have them on Kurt vices and other things as well. So getting back, Ash Design, how do you calculate surface feet per minute for a tapered end mill? I'm having trouble with a good feed and speeds for a good surface finish on aluminum tapered pocket. Ash, can you send me the minimum diameter to your tapered end mill? That's what I'm going to need to give you some good calculations. Fish was definitely doing too much machine work for sure. Getting in, my main concern from CAD is when I have to make the part again, I would have to regenerate all my toolpaths. Not true at all, buddy. So again, going back to that idea of utilizing a joint origin, actually, you would still need to generate your toolpaths all over again, I believe. Let me just double verify that. As you can see, I'm calculating my toolpaths right now based on a joint origin. And stock is now updating. But if I went back to the manufacturer side of things, or design, sorry guys, move my joint origin maybe more this way. And then we go back to manufacturer. Yes, you still are going to have to regenerate those toolpaths. Now, again, this is just me saying, CAD user, please send us an email at, either put in a support ticket if you'd like. I want to dig more into your DWO issue because something sounds more off with your DWO than anything else. You ever measure chamfers with tooling balls? I can by all means. Give me a few seconds here. Locate a sphere onto a chamfer. We'll look at that here in a second, Fish. Current software is a macro that runs, and I input the new XY offsets to the software, and it changes the XY moves automatically. So yeah, that sounds like you're basically translating the information. Now, again, CAD user, this is where we get into technicalities. We can do that. We could build you a post processor with a macro shift in it. That is completely doable to take all of your XY commands and shift them incrementally based on a macro or two macros in your controller. 0.06 ball end mill on the small side, 1 degree taper along per side. So 2 degrees inclusive. That's awesome. So again, based on a surface feet per minute, Ash, I would recommend going off of that 0.06 diameter, right? So that's where I would start with a surface feet, because if you drew your tool, I'm just going to draw a sketch of this, which is also going to come in handy when we talk about measuring a few other things. But what's happening, you guys didn't know this is a really good way to cheat the system. So as you're seeing me do right now is I am doing that 1 degree taper. And then from there, we have our ball at 0.06. And then lastly, whatever your length is going to be, let's say it's going to be 0.5 here. And we're going to take that sketch point. And as you're seeing is it's still free forming. So a couple of things I need to do is I need to go ahead horizontal and vertical to center. And then I do use a coincidence to get it onto the arc. And just like that, I have basically my information. Now, there's a lot of reasons as to what's going to happen. Again, this is just one of those things. A 1 degree taper is not crazy. But if you were to start to deal with something that's more like a 5 degree taper, the diameter down here at the bottom is still 0.06 versus your diameter at the top. Now, pro tip here, guys, center line, we change it to a center line. And when you do your dimensioning off a center line, you can see that this is a reference diameter, but that's a 142 at this end, but an 06 at the other end, right? So if I was now dealing with a tool, I'm going to go to a blank file. We're going to go into my tool library. But let's say I'm going to build a tool here real quick. That is going to be a tapered mill. And as you can see, when we talk about the cutter, the diameter right now is based on the tip itself. So again, this is going to be from the outside to outside, basically tangent off those walls. So with that said, where the real fun begins is when you start to get into all of the other math on this. Again, we have a 1 degree taper. We're dealing with a corner radius of, what was it, 0.62 divided by 2. And then our diameter is 0.62. And as you guys are seeing, I've now recreated more or less that tool, right? So again, we have a shaft diameter here. This is going to be a little bit crazier of math. And then you have your overall length below holder, yada, 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 as you move down that tool. So again, going back to my drawing, did we do 0.5 or 1 inch? I can't remember. But again, what you're seeing is how I'm building out that tapered end mill. So as you can see, getting into our cutting data, our surface feet per minute is still going to always be driven based on an expression, which is going to use the machinist handbook method, right? So we do need to make sure that our cutter is showing the right number of flutes to get a profit surface feet per minute. Now, to go deeper in the weeds than this for you, a lot of you guys out there, this is where we recommend using something like HSM Advisor or the G Wizard calculator. They are both very, very powerful tools to help get further and further down. Yeah, go ahead and send over the part. Feel free. I'll take a look at it. switch to Fusion because they no longer pay for maintenance. Some of my programs are quite complex, so regenerating toolpaths is too involved. I don't see how generating a toolpath is too involved. But yeah, RIP Bob. Again, I reached out to those guys. I would be happy if you guys want to let them know if you know somebody over there. If they are looking for somebody to pick up GWizard and continue to develop on it, we would be happy to at JetCAD-CAM. So again, few things there. CAD user, send us an email, man. We could build a custom post that does exactly that. Again, so that you don't have to regenerate your toolpaths, we'll just use a couple of variables that you could plug in on the fly to get your shift, right? Going up a little bit higher, let's make sure we didn't miss anybody so far. I know Ash Design is going to send us a part file. M Fish out there has slowed down on his comments, so I think we're doing good. Unless Fusion can generate in seconds, it's time I don't have. CAD user, again, as most of you guys know, there's only so much I could do while live, but I would have to look at your workflow overall to see what exactly is holding it up. Sphere on a chamfer. That's right. What do you... All right. So, what, is it a mill part or lathe part, Fish? Give you a sec here. And then also, what size sphere are you using? To measure diameter mill part. I know exactly what you're doing. Okay. So if you guys are wondering what he is referring to, is at the end of the day, he is looking to basically measure a chamfer on a part. Now, I'm going to just draw one. I think it's going to be way easier for me to do this. Is let's say, for example, I have a block, and that block has a hole, and let's just go 1/2 inch hole is going to be what we have. Now, if I had a chamfer on that hole, say it's 0.03, is in order to measure a chamfer, what he's more or less going to have to do is he has to place a ball bearing in that hole, if that makes sense. So once you place a ball bearing on there, you have that freedom to be able to utilize the measurement of the ball itself. So I'm going to go ahead and draw this here real quick. I'm going to put it on center, and this is for visual purposes, as you guys will see. This is now a new component in this case, and then we are going to move this up. So what we're looking for at the end of the day is, again, real quick, guys, give me a second to clean this up. Got to throw a few dimensions in here. This makes the whole world a little easier to understand. And then we're going to go ahead and move that move. We won't be able to. We're going to do the sphere after the move. And all right. So here is our sphere. Most of this is for visual representation, guys. And we're going to say new component. And let's say it's a 1 inch. Oh, that's going to probably be overkill. 750. Now let's do our move command. Just high enough so we could visually see this when I do a section analysis. Some of you at home probably wondering why I did all that extra work. It's so that we can get to an exact location to see. The idea is that that sphere at the end of the day needs to make contact with the edges of the chamfer, right? So now what I have the ability to do is if I had a ball bearing on my part, I could more or less measure from this flat to the top of the bearing to give myself a dimension. Now, adjust size with the programmed Z depth. Okay, so you do this with a spot drill on tight callouts. Yep. So as you guys are seeing, is I just want to get you the visualization that if you didn't know this, you can get tooling balls, ball bearings work. Again, the idea is that you're putting the ball on the chamfered surface so that you can measure from the flat to basically the top of the ball, and there's going to be a dimension there in some way, shape, or form. Now, I modeled this to give you an understanding of how it works. You don't need to model this because really, if I would have did this as a 2D sketch, again, a lot of ways to do this at the end of the day. But as you're going to see, if I simply create a circle and a rectangle, now I could also model in those chamfers inside of here. This is 100% up to you guys, how you guys want to do this. Now, as you're going to see here, I'm going to do this with lines. Because again, you have your chamfer. We are going to now do our horizontal vertical over center. And this would be, at the end of the day, something I would build out as a template reference, if that makes sense. Again, we're going to go ahead and go tangent this to this. Maybe not. We need to bring our sphere down first. All right, tangent this guy to this guy. Now, if this was a 45-degree chamfer, as you can see, based on our sphere, there's going to be a hole size here. Again, center line. Let's say that's a 1-inch hole. And I am looking to use something like a 1.5 diameter ball. Again, your chamfer is going to have a size to it too, guys. This is, again, I shouldn't say this is standard information. I've made that mistake before because then people are like, oh, I had no idea about this, that, and the other. So what I'm really looking for is, like I said, is when this ball makes contact on that surface, there is going to be a distance from this line, which is going to be the flat of our part. And now I'm right-clicking to pick arc tangent, but that's what I'm looking for, right? So again, if your hole gets bigger in diameter, let's say it goes to 1.005, you're going to notice this dimension is now changed over on the left, right? So again, this is just a very crude sketch that I drew. Again, let's say the diameter of the ball changes to 1 inch. Obviously, it's not going to make contact on the flat, so that makes no sense. But this is what I'm really looking for, is this dimension here controls everything at the end of the day. Or I could do this backwards from the way you guys are seeing it. Again, I'm using this as a reference dimension where I may need to change that from a reference dimension or change what dimension I'm trying to trigger. So again, is if this chamfer becomes bigger at the end of the day, again, it's now shifted my ball around. And this is the wrong size ball. But this is, again, I just want you guys to see this is the out-of-the-box thinking that makes a large difference at the end of the day on where that ball is going to sit on the chamfer. Now, again, we could do this a little bit different, where I'm using a tangent constraint between the arc and that flat, and then I'm also locking it in horizontal vertical. So the way you constrain this is, the idea is the ball would never change, but if the chamfer changes, the ball isn't going to sit lower or higher. It's the diameter of the chamfer that makes all the difference, right? So again, something that you could do to be able to program that up. Again, jumping back to the other side of things, all we're looking for is when you CMM, or if you have a height gauge, is that distance from here to the top of the sphere, which puts you, again, that face sitting where the sphere touches tangentially. Now, one thing I will do here real quick, because I've always kind of been curious about this, Fusion does have what's called tangent relations. So if we did say I want a relationship between here and here, as you can see, it doesn't look like that one works, but then there is also constraint components. So let's see, can we constrain this component to that component? And it does look like you can. So that would be super neat if you could. I don't know if you can for sure. Let's try something else real quick, which would be is let's move ball higher up and try that one more time. Constrain. Yeah, so it doesn't look like it's going to snap down face to face. So it doesn't quite want to handle that as right now. So again, that constraint component is not placing it tangent surface to surface. I use a pin mic with the foot off. Okay. A lot of different ways to do it. Again, I'm just showing you guys that kind of out of the box kind of system that you could use as a machinist to figure out, you know, what is that supposed to be to measure. Questions outside of that? So I see Ash has submitted a ticket. Let me get back over to other side of things. Go ahead and download this file real quick and get it uploaded. Again, if any of you guys have any questions at any time, feel free, throw them in chat, send us a ticket, sign up, I guess, now for our subscription offerings of top tier subscriptions. My wife pointed out to me, guys, that when you sign up, you should get something, and I don't know what you guys should get. So it's one of those things that trying to figure out what we should do special about the top tier subscription subscribers. Should you get a photo of me drinking a beer? Is that what we should go for? You get back over to OBS-C. Is there a specific DNC you like to use? Well, there, Fish, yes, there is. Autodesk now offers their own online software for DNC. Now, there's also a app called DNC, or there's a software company, DNC for You. Also very good benefits there. And then there is a serial to NC plugin for Fusion that works quite well also. Mike Godfrey out there with the laughter. Love to see it. So let's see what we got. We got a center pocket test. So Ash, I know you said you were going to send in a file. You sent in a file. Did you send in any information with the file? Or did I just get a file? I just got a file. That's all I got. Ash, what is it that you want me to do with this thing? I apologize, man. I see a part. I see a vise. Don't know what I'm supposed to do with it, but let's see here. I mean, overall, Brother Speedio, nice machine. Facing her off, cutting out our pockets. We're now machining the floors. We're then going around with a tapered end mill in the bottom, making a couple of passes to open that up. And from there, it looks like you're now doing a ramp around that guy. Picture with a beer. You like the picture with a beer, Mike? Sure. I tell you what, you guys send up. I guess what I would have to, I don't know. I'll have to figure it out. I'm getting bad surface finish on the walls. I'm trying different strategies, speeds, and feeds to get the best finish. Need help improving surface quality. So, again, I don't want to be the one to say this, but it's a lot of stick out for a very narrow diametered end mill. So that is one place you could start with the idea that there could be an issue. Now, this is where it's going to get quite fun because I do remember some secret type stuff. You do have multiple step downs here. How are you doing them? You are, okay, so you are using a wall taper angle step down as well. Now, when you say you're getting terrible surface finish, I would have a couple of questions as to what does that surface finish actually look like? Is it very jagged? Is there a bunch of bad like sound coming from the machine? Things of that nature. Because to me, it's not the best thing to tell most people, but if this is what you're going for, this would also be something that a swerf toolpath would be very beneficial. But let's do some investigating, right? So we're at 8,000 RPMs, 12 inches per minute. Now, that might be a wee bit too spicy, regardless of your material. So let's start with a standard. I'll pull up another chart here. So let's do this. So one good thing, if you guys didn't know, in the Fusion library, you do have the vendor library, and then you do have things like RV tool end mills. There's a lot of different specialty tools out there. Now, the problem with some of these tools is they don't have all the speeds and feeds. Now, if we went to the Haas tooling library, and we're going to go with a standard flat end mill because it'll be easy to narrow this down. And then what we are looking for is, of course, a diameter in inch. And we have some 0625 diameters, right? So what I would tell you first and foremost is let's look at some speeds and feeds to a few of these tools. Now, as you're going to see, these tools here built for hard alloys versus aluminums. So again, all I'm doing here is looking to steal some speeds and feeds. So again, we have some 1/8 inch, high performance, aluminum. Again, you have things from 8,000 surface feet per minute. And again, these are set to the high end of the spectrum. But what I would look at stealing is more the feed per tooth. So even though these tools are going 244,000 RPMs and 1,500 inches per minute, the feed per tooth is really what I'm looking for. So right now we're looking at a 2,000 chip load. We're even getting down to a 17. Again, this is something that would be very wise to start looking at, because in their speeds and feed charts, they do have things like side milling HSM light, side milling, slot milling. This is where I think I would start if I was somebody trying to figure that out. So again, you get into ferrous surface machining. We're getting a little better surface feet, but we're down to 1,008/10. Again, look how much slower those speeds and feeds are at the end of the day. So that being said, I think some of your problems are coming from, one, you might be going almost too slow of a feed per tooth in this particular use case. So again, if we up that to maybe a thou, we could see a night and day difference. So instead of you actually cutting material, you could be actually rubbing the tool, causing some of your own problems as well. So again, sometimes it's not necessarily too much feed rate. It's not enough, dependent on the tool. Again, I don't know what you have in here for this tool information. 3 flutes, so you should have plenty of flute relief. Now, again, going into your cutting data, this is where I think some things are happening, because you're saying 8,000 might be your max RPM. You might also be in a spot where that max RPM is causing some harmonics issues, right? So again, sometimes even dropping your RPM or raising your RPM can make a huge difference at the end of the day. So keep in mind, an end mill has to have something to get a bite on when you're machining in some use cases. So vectorize little line segments into single arcs. Fish, it does. It's called smoothing. Now, depending on your tool path, there's a lot of different things that you can use as well. So Fish is asking, is there something along the lines of certain smoothing settings, or is there a limit on how high you should go? It's a little tricky of a question to answer, but usually what I recommend is, if we are roughing, I tend to match my tolerance to my drawing specs. So if your part is ±5 all over, I tend to go ±5 tolerance for roughing. And then from the standing of smoothing, you can go up quite a bit, because again, the idea is we are going to reduce the number of points. So again, is I have a tendency to match my smoothing to whatever my tolerance is. Now, this is a roughing scenario. Now, going back over to the side of finishing, some of you have made these changes, some of you have not. If you are doing roughing, by default, it's set to 4/10. Again, I go to smoothing. Smoothing matches my tolerance. Do you need 4/10 tolerance on a toolpath? No, I really don't think you do, unless you're dealing with some wild stuff. So this is where we tend to recommend even upping your tolerance more closer to like 1 or 2 thou. And as you guys can see, the smoothing matches that. Now, without seeing your part, it's so hard to really give you proper recommendations. Are we talking mold cavities? Are we talking simple parts? Like, again, Fish, my assumption is you're running pretty simple parts on older machines. There's way more problems out there than I think you're having to deal with than smoothing at the end of the day. Surface finish looks like, tried multiple different speeds and feeds. Max RPM on the Speedio is 16K. Nice. So let's go ahead and take a look here. I'm going to go ahead and jump back over. So we're going to go ahead and pull this picture up for you guys. I got to figure out the best way to do this. Give me a sec here, guys. There we go. So as you guys may or may not be able to see right now, is there is quite terrible surface finish inside that part. Now, I would need to know real quick, what is the last toolpath ran before this photo? Ash? Because right now, what you're showing me, that looks like tool deflection and vibration. Plain and simple. So I think you're cutting way too much in whatever this toolpath was, and you're causing shatter. Now I'm going to go back and let's look at a couple of other things here real quick. He's adaptive clearing, leaving 10 on the walls. Okay, finishing the floors. That's fine. So presumably, we are going from 10 thou to leaving 15, or 1.5, I should say. So, all right, so you're doing, all right. So you're making multiple step overs at 3 thou. Okay. And if your tool is 0625 out there for you guys, this is about a 5% step over, right? My math is correct. So about a 5% step over for finishing. And then it looks like you are going to make, again, a couple of finish passes at 3 thou. Now, this is, again, just so you guys know, this is where I would ask some questions. Is you're doing a finish feed rate of 12 here, and you are doing a cutting normal feed rate of 12 as well. So I would assume that there was no difference in audio between these two roughings and finishing toolpaths. So that would be one thing I would start to look at is maybe, again, is you're doing way too small of material removal on these passes. So again, it's hard to say. I know in all the world's time that I have had when it comes to small end mills is who makes the end mill, what is the part number to the end mill. All of that information is stuff that I would plug in online or get a hold of a tooling rep to understand why it is or what is going on with that tool. Is there a secondary tool path to take to final size? There's really not. You kind of got it narrowed down to either a ramp or I would assume a 3D contour would be another version. Ramp is nice because you're going down in Z, but it's really hard to say which way is going to work best for this use case, right? So is this the photo that you sent me the surface finish problems on? Is this the photo that had bad surface finish? Again, for those of you guys wondering out there, I think did I close the photo? I think I just lost my start bar somehow. You guys still out there? You guys still hear me? There we go. Again, let me get this pulled up for you guys. And I'm having one of them days. So again, just from what I see here is you are getting tool deflection. It looks like standard shatter all the way around the part. Now, let me look at something here because this did just remind me of something. I got a welt out there with the 10. Love to see it. Thanks, buddy. So it was the 2D contour before the blend. Okay. So the contour and the ramp look very similar. So one thing I would tell you is judging by these tool marks around the bottom is when you ran the 2D contour. Now, keep in mind, when you're deflecting a tool, it becomes a larger diameter tool, right? So you've now gouged up these walls, but let me just show you something. So when you did your roughing and then finished the floors, if you notice, there is a massive staircase here like you're walking up the stairs from the Rocky movie. And what I think has happened is you are machining almost on center of the tool, trying to remove this step in here right now, which is deflecting your tool a ton. Again, this is a lot of material still here to remove. And if you guys didn't know, this is kind of a cool thing that if you were to actually go in and simulate this, give my computer a second here to get caught up. Say we go ahead and hit play, let this do its thing. But now that we're done with that tool path, you can inspect stock to model. If I come in here and put my mouse, do you see how I have 030 material right now? 024, again, depending on where we're at or what wall we're touching, 020. That is a massive amount of material down there that you're having to remove at the end of the day, which could be, again, this is a large could be of what's happening on your part, right? So again, as you guys are seeing me do here, you have that ability to do a section analysis as well. Sec here. And that is, in my opinion, where your problem is probably coming from. So you cut this profile, and when you cut this profile, that tool took such a heavy cut as it was trying to work outwards to remove anything down here at the bottom, that it is now deflected and caused all those chatters around the outside of your part. So again, this is just, I'm evaluating what you have here. You're leaving 1.5 on the walls. And then later you're trying to ramp back down at -2 thou. So you've tried to now walk it out a little bit to make up that gap. So I can understand that you're saying that toolpath wasn't even finishing the walls, but you're still taking so much material down here at the bottom. If you're deflecting that tool at all, remember that tool's going to touch the walls, plain and simple. Now, if we go back and we look at your actual ramp toolpath, again, something you might have to do if you guys haven't done this in the past is have you put an indicator on that tool and actually trued that tool up to the spindle. So again, that tool could be spinning a hair off center as well, loading up and deflecting. Again, if it's oscillating off of center in any way possible without dropping your feed rate by, 80%, you wouldn't see the difference. I think there's a couple of things happening here, and I think it's more a speeds and feeds game. Tool maybe not spinning on center. Again, these are all variables that I would look at the end of the day, and I would probably start with the easiest one is if you put a dial indicator on the spindle and you spin that tool, is the actual shank of the tool on center? Cool, guys. Any other questions out there? I see a lot more people coming in, going out. We are here for you guys. If you guys have questions at any time, feel free to reach out. You could go ahead and submit them in chat. You could also send us any support tickets via the links down below. Now, we are in technically our promo time of the year where we also have, I think it's 20% off. I think it's 20% off training and support packages on our hourly training, not on-site training. But we are running a 20% promo for all of that stuff with it being the end of the year, as well as next month is the end of Autodesk's year, which means they, of course, may or may not have some type of promo. And you guys probably don't want to look at my OBS studio. Let me get stuff moved back around. So, any other questions out there, guys? I'm going to go ahead and clean up my workspace here a little bit in the meantime. Again, let's just go ahead and get this guy closed out. Don't need this guy. Finish up my coffee. And support for Windows 10 is over. Is it? For the record, anybody watching this video right now, if you have a gaming laptop that has an AMD processor and an AMD graphics card that can't be upgraded to Windows 11, please reach out to me. I need to buy a couple of those for some other projects. Any way to directly import a step file to a component? Yeah, a little bit more information on that. Going once, going twice, deep thinker. Directly import a step file to a component. Are you saying, okay. As we're going to see is if you were to, you can't open directly from your desktop into a file, if that is what you're asking. You have to upload it at the end of the day, first and foremost. Not open a body, okay? Are you saying you want to keep the original file format of like a step file from a customer or something of that nature? Going once, going twice. What you got, deep thinker? Anybody else in the meantime? You guys have any questions? Feel free to reach out. I'm gonna go ahead and double check our support ticket area, make sure there's nothing in there. Reminds me, I got to get a hold of Elijah after this to dive into more of his machine problems, why it's all over the place. On contour selection, we do deep. Well, we definitely do. I'll show you guys some of that stuff here. When I get a model from a customer, I'd like to open it as a component, move it around. So deep thinker, it's hard to say exactly what your end problem is, but what I would say is if you're looking to open it as a component, you need to either right click, insert it into your current design, or you need to drag and drop it into your design. Again, that's one of those things that I kind of need some more information or a use case as to exactly what you're going for. I mean, once you've uploaded that file and opened that file, whether or not you just do a standard open or insert it, you should be able to move it around with no problem. I see a lot of questions out there from guys. Guys, real quick here, I'm going to pull up YouTube. Give me one sec here. So we got some new things going on our side. As you guys may have not seen, we do have courses now. We have our Learn Something series for the mill and the lathe. These are our Milling Monday, Turning Tuesday videos. Now, from that is if you guys are looking for a specific video, I would highly recommend, I don't know why people always forget about this, I forget too, is the ability to search the actual website. So if I wanted something like before a center of rotation setups and machine simulation, as you guys can see, that was a question before about, comping apart. Now, it did turn into a little bit more of a question about a custom post processor, but the same would happen is if we were looking at, chain selection. I do have Workflow Wednesday, boundary and chain selections. As you can see, there is a lot of different ways to get to our content. Now, there is, of course, all of our live videos, like we are live right now. We also have anything that's up and coming, all of our past videos, anything and everything. So it looks like Walt just found what he was looking for. So let me get this closed back out. So deep thinker, you know how to get a hold of me. I would love to dive in a little bit further on what it is that you have going on. Oh, wrong screen. In the meantime, I think that's it. I see the questions have slowed down. I don't see very many coming through anymore. We've been at this trucking for an hour and a half. And well, I think it's that time. I really do. I feel that it is that time that it's not what you know. It's who you know. Awesome. Great to see that deep thinker out there with the center of rotation helped 100%. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And you all know Fusion Phil over here at JitCAD Cam. I am an Autodesk reseller, partner, service provider, whatever the terminology is nowadays. And we are here to support you guys with your adventures inside of Fusion, whether it be CAD or CAM. We're here to train you guys, get you the answers you need so that you don't have to deal with all the arguing on Facebook groups. I love the arguing. They always say if you want a right answer, make sure you post the wrong one and you'll always get the right answer. But with that, we are wrapping up another free support Friday. If you're catching this at a later date or watching it while you drive on your daily commute, just remember you can always leave a comment down below or send us an email for support. And we thoroughly enjoyed the steaks, the beers, the lobsters, the now top tier subscription program. We appreciate each and every one of you at the end of the day. So go forth, have a great weekend. And next week, try to think, when is New Year's? Is on Wednesday, right? It is. Okay. So next week, we will not be live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but we will be live for another free support Friday, kicking off the new year as always. So with that, guys, have a great weekend. Go get some overtime in if you're not working.